My sons sold their house and gave $620,000 for my daughter-in-law to spend. Then, they came to live in my house. I answered, no. My daughter-in-law slapped me across the face. That very same day, I called my lawyer. When they received the Suppo Epsilon Nu Alpha, my daughter-in-law panicked. My name is Bessie, and at 64 I thought I knew my son. I thought I understood the man I raised, the boy I sacrificed everything for. But that Tuesday morning in October changed everything I believed about family loyalty and the child I brought into this world. I was in my garden tending to my late-blooming roses when I heard the car pull into my driveway. The engine sound was familiar, Terrence's SUV, but something felt different. There was an urgency in the way the doors slammed, a tension I could sense even from my backyard. When I walked around to the front of my modest, two-story home, I found my son standing on my porch with his wife, Lennox, but they weren't carrying the usual signs of a casual visit. Lennox had 2 large suitcases beside her, and Terrence was pulling more bags from the trunk. Mom, Terrence called out, his voice strained. We need to talk. I wiped my hands on my gardening apron, studying their faces. Terrence looked exhausted. His usually neat appearance disheveled. His tie was crooked and there were dark circles under his eyes. Lennox, on the other hand, stood perfectly composed in her designer outfit, her blonde hair styled to perfection despite the early hour. What's going on? I asked, unlocking my front door. Is everything all right? They followed me inside, their footsteps echoing on my hardwood floors. I noticed Lennox's sharp eyes scanning my living room, taking inventory of my furniture, my decorations, as if calculating something. Mom, we have something to tell you. Terrence began settling heavily into my old recliner, the same chair where his father used to sit before he passed. 5 years ago, I poured myself a cup of coffee from the pot I'd made earlier. My hands steady despite the growing unease in my chest. I'm listening. Terrence glanced at Lennox, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod. We sold the house. The words hung in the air like smoke. I set my coffee cup down carefully, the ceramic making a soft clink against the saucer. Which house? I asked, though something deep in my stomach already knew the answer. Our house. He said, the one on Maple Street, the one on Maple Street, the beautiful colonial I had helped them buy, the house where I'd contributed $40,000 from my retirement savings for the down payment, the house where I'd spent countless weekends helping them renovate, painting walls until my back ached, planting the garden that Lennox never appreciated. You sold it. My voice came out smaller than I intended. Why didn't you tell me you were thinking about selling? Lennox spoke for the first time since entering my home. We didn't need permission. Bessie, it's our house. Her tone was cool, matter of fact, but there was something else. There's something that made my skin crawl. I understand it's your house, I said carefully, but we discussed your plans to stay there long term. You said it was perfect for raising the kids you wanted to have. Terrence shifted uncomfortably. Plans change, Mom. How much did you get for it? I asked. $620,000, Lennox answered. Before Terrence could speak, there was something almost gleeful in her voice, like she was sharing exciting news. My breath caught. $620,000. It was more than I'd made in the last 10 years of working before retirement. That's wonderful. I managed. So where are you moving? Did you find a bigger place, somewhere in a better school district? The silence that followed was deafening. Terrence stared at his hands. Lennox examined her perfectly manicured nails. Actually, Mom, Terrence finally said, we were hoping we could stay here with you, just temporarily while we figure things out. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. Stay here, it would just be for a little while. He rushed to explain, maybe a few months, we wouldn't be any trouble. But what happened to the money from the sale? I asked. Another silence. This one felt heavier, more dangerous. Well, Lennox said, smoothing her skirt. I had some expenses, things I needed to take care of. What kind of expenses? Personal things, she said, her tone suggesting the conversation was over, but I wasn't ready to let it go. Lennox, you just sold a house for over $600,000. What could possibly? I bought some jewelry, she interrupted, and some clothes. I got my car detailed and upgraded the interior. I also took a spa trip to California with my sister. Oh, and I paid off my credit cards. I stared at her, waiting for her to continue to explain where the rest of the money went. When she didn't, I felt something cold settle in my chest. How much jewelry? I asked quietly. Does it matter? Lennox snapped. It was my money to spend your money. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Terrence finally looked up at me. Mom, please. We just need a place to stay while we get back on our feet. Get back on your feet. I repeated. Terrence, you just had over $500,000. How are you not on your feet? It's complicated. He mumbled. I looked between my son and his wife, seeing them clearly for perhaps the first time. Terrence, my boy, who I'd raised to be responsible, to think before acting, was sitting in my living room homeless, despite having just had more money than most people see in a lifetime. And Lennox, who had never worked a day since marrying my son, was sitting there in what looked like a brand new outfit that probably cost more than my monthly Social Security check. Where did all the money go? Lennox, I asked again, my voice firmer this time. She rolled her eyes. I told you I had expenses. $620,000 worth of expenses. It's not your business. Bessie, something snapped inside me. It became my business when you showed up at my door asking for a place to live. Terrence put his head in his hands. Mom, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Harder than it has to be. I stood up, my coffee forgotten. Terrence, help me understand this. You had a beautiful house, money in the bank, and now you're asking to move in with your 64-year-old mother because your wife spent it all on jewelry and spa trips. It wasn't just jewelry and spa trips. Lennox said defensively, I had debts to pay off. What debts? Credit card debts? How much? She glared at me. Enough, I felt like I was drowning. Terrence, look at me. My son raised his head, and I saw something in his eyes that broke my heart. He looked defeated, embarrassed, but also resigned, like he'd given up fighting long ago. How much debt did she have? I asked him directly, Mom, how much? Terrence? He sighed deeply, about $80,000 in credit card debt. I felt dizzy. What did she buy with $80,000 on credit cards? Clothes, mostly, he said quietly, shoes, handbags, vacations before we were married, and the rest of the money from the house. Terrence looked at Lennox, who was now studying her phone, as if this conversation didn't concern her.